So today, what I want to do is I want to run through the timeline of events, especially concerning Shawn Bolz, and show you everything that happened in order. And this is going to reveal some really interesting facts. But just before we do, I'm going to give you a quick summary of exactly who Shawn Bolz is. Shawn Bolz rose to prominence through what many in charismatic circles call words of knowledge. The idea that he would receive very specific details about people's lives, like birthdays, family members, illnesses, anniversaries, and other personal facts about them. Then he'd share those details and speak publicly about that as proof that God was the one that was speaking. As more information came out, many people began pointing out that some of these details appeared to match information that could be found online, especially on public social media profiles. So the concern is that Shawn may have been gathering information from sources like Facebook and presenting it as supernatural knowledge. In at least two stories, people have shared that decisions they made based on the prophetic words that he shared had serious consequences in their lives. Separate from prophetic concerns, there are other allegations of a sexual nature, sexual misconduct, and those are also connected to Shawn Bolz's ministry. So those allegations were raised with leaders at different times, at different parts of this timeline. And with that said, let's begin taking a closer look at the timeline to show you how this all worked out. So in 2002, according to Jonah Toledo, that's the gentleman up top here, he began working with Shawn Bolz at the church Expression 58. Moving on, in 2007, Shawn launched Expression 58 in Los Angeles after receiving prophetic encouragement from certain individuals, and you'll notice a special name there. You'll notice Patricia King is involved at this point. Moving on to 2011, Elijah Stevens moved to Reading and became a member of Bethel. He will appear later on in this timeline as someone who says he was deeply impacted by Shawn's prophetic words, so to speak. In 2012, Cherie and Shawn Bolz get married, and we can find this post that's still available online on July 7th, 2012, where Shawn Bolz announces his ministry that he's going to be starting with Cherie. But in this, he also says that he's going to continue serving and volunteering in his role at E58. You can see that over here. I just want to mention at this point that I will be posting the links to everything in the description or in a comment under the description if it doesn't allow me to post that much. In 2013, Shawn Bolz's application to Harvest Ministries International is approved. Now, Shawn is the one who says this in his letter. He tells us that in 2013, he approved Shawn Bolz's international ministry. In 2014, on January 30th, 2014, and this is based on recent information that was revealed by Mike Winger on his latest video, you can see that Shawn is commissioning Shawn Bolz and Stacy Campbell into service. Now, it's quite strange that he's commissioning them into service here, but what he claims later on is that he was not in authority over them. In 2015, January 29th, you can see that at Harvest Rock Church, Shawn Bolz is even in an image at the church, and he's being commissioned by Shawn once again, and Patricia King is also seen in this image, and this is on January 29th, 2015. On January 17th, 2015, there was also some conversation about Shawn Bolz's false prophecies and things like that. And you can see Chris Valentin kind of backed him up with a comment that Shawn Bolz has the most powerful word of knowledge gift I've ever experienced. I thank God for the gifts he gives to his people. So this was on January 27th, 2015, and this is kind of in the time where Shawn Bolz's ministry was really picking up. Let's move on. So here you can see also in February 2015, this is when Elijah Stevens said that he received text messages from Shawn Bolz, and this is when Shawn Bolz called him in to the ministry and prophesied over him. We're going to cover that later on, and I'll show you what he said. In November 12, 2015, we can see that Shawn Bolz's book, Translating God, was released, and it had a foreword by Bill Johnson, the senior pastor at Bethel. In 2016, we can see that Shawn Bolz leaves Expression with his wife, and they transition out of their senior roles there to transition into their own ministry, Bolz Ministry, and this is in 2016. Now, I want to make a comment here because this came out. Jonah Toledo, or leadership of Expression 58 Church, claimed that there had never been any claim about sexual misconduct in relation to Shawn, and according to Mike Winger, he mentions that this is untrue and that two witnesses came forward and said that they found Shawn Bolz was pleasuring himself in front of people, and they said that Jonah Toledo at the time brush it off as just Shawn being Shawn. On April 9th, 2016, this is when we can see Bill Johnson calling Shawn Bolz one of their dearest friends and one of the most trusted friends. This is his words at the Azusa conference. We can see from the video here that was posted that this happened on April 9th, 2016, still during Shawn's rise to fame in ministry. On April 13th, 2016, Patricia King is seen in a video with Shawn Bolz. This video has now been removed. It was on her website. Sometime in 2016, Patricia King is spotted saying that Shawn Bolz is a dear friend for a long time since he was a teenager. At the same event, Shawn confirms he's been in 27 TV shows since November 2015, and so this is definitely during his rise to fame. Now, Patricia King says later on that she had no close personal relationship with him, but that's kind of inconsistent with what she says here. So let's keep moving on. We'll get to that a little bit later. In May 2017, on May 17th, we see that a newspaper article was posted by Stuart James Falker. And in this newspaper article, they claim that he's got some false prophecies. And I do believe that they mentioned a document later on that came out concerning this. And I think that document was around in this time. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Jason Smedley's the person who claims to have known about this document. Moving on, Jason Smedley enters the picture here, and he's a connection of Mike Winger, or he connected with Mike Winger over this whole fiasco and said that he contacted Stacey Campbell with a document that was showing proof of this whole situation and false prophecies in 2017, September 2017, but he never hears from her again after that. He also contacted Ben Armstrong, who was the prophetic overseer at Bethel at the time, and he says that he never heard again from Ben Armstrong after that. So Jason Smedley then goes on in January 2018 to contact a person in Europe, in England, and shares the evidence that he found of Shawn Bolz's false prophecies. But this person confirms that Bethel is aware of the situation and that they can see that there are similarities between what Shawn Bolz is saying and the Facebook stuff. But they say that they trust Shawn. They believe that Shawn is not guilty of anything. He's actually okay. I highlighted this with yellow to show that it was a significant event, but in 2018 what happened was that Shawn Bolz was accused of sexual misconduct with our mystery person, and this mystery person is going to come into view a little bit more as we go on. This mystery person was an assistant of Shawn in 2018, and he witnessed Shawn Bolz, to put it plainly, masturbating in front of him, walking around naked in front of him without consent. And even if there was consent, it would be very inappropriate for a preacher or pastor to be doing this in your presence, which is really disturbing. But all of these events mostly happened with this particular assistant in 2018. We'll see more of them in a bit. In 2019, Elijah Stevens confirms that Bethel were made aware of Shawn's false prophecies at that time already, but no action was taken. Chris Valentin also confirmed that in 2019 they were aware of the accusations concerning Shawn Bolz. In January 2020, Patricia King mentioned that she was in a green room with other preachers and leaders, and they also spoke about how Shawn may have been obtaining information from social media, prophesying from that material. And so Patricia King finds out about this in January 2020, but she continues working with him. I think at that time she says that she believed, and most of them believed, that it was just rumors and they trusted him. In January 27th, 2020, Shawn Bolz gets his own TV show on TBN called Translating God, named after his book. Now, I look for any evidence of Patricia King working with Shawn Bolz, and I found that there was a recording with Patricia King and Shawn Bolz that happened on the Exploring the Prophetic podcast. This is a podcast that is Shawn Bolz's podcast, and on this one, he says that, and Patricia, if you don't know who she is, I've known her for a long time. I can't even tell you how many years I've known her. And he phrases his discussion or his comments on her as if they are very close. That's really important for us to know. 1 month later, the mystery person that we were talking about contacts Patricia King and shares his testimony with her of what he witnessed Shawn Bolz doing. And because of this, Patricia King says that she reached out to Shawn and Chris Valentin. So Shawn also confirms this himself by saying that around 2020 he removed Shawn Bolz as a member of HIM, Harvest International Ministry, and told him to submit to his pastor Bill Johnson. At this point, Shawn says that Bill Johnson is actually Shawn Bolz's senior pastor and it's not him, even though Shawn Bolz has claimed, according to reports, that he is serving under Shawn. On April 17th to 18th, 2020, we can see discussion between Chris Vallotton and our mystery person, where our mystery person is asking him for help and asking if he's had a chance to look into what's going on, because Patricia King told him that she had already taken this up with Chris. And so Chris Vallotton replies and says something very interesting. He says, "We've been aware of the situation for a while. Thank you for caring." And then he says, "We'll start an investigation into Shawn's ministry and I'll get back to you in a couple of months as we find more." What's interesting to me about this whole situation is that on the same day you can see Bill Johnson, Shawn Bolz and his wife in a live Zoom stream. That's on the same day of these text messages. I was interested in what was going on around that time, and it turns out that he was still active with Bethel Ministry at this time. Really interesting, on the same day that Chris Vallotton says that they've known about the situation for a while. Based on the text between Chris Vallotton and our mystery person, we can now confirm that the date that they met up was in fact Friday, June 12th in 2020. And in this discussion, we've heard many things. We've heard some reports say that there was some progress, and these are reports from Chris Vallotton. Chris Vallotton says that there was slow progress in this meeting. It was difficult. And other reports say that Shawn Bolz fully denied everything, and he actually accused our mystery person of lying. Like he just wasn't accepting any of it, and because of that, they decided to distance themselves with him. Let's check what happened. So our mystery person reaches out and asks if there's been any update, because it's been a couple of months since their last discussion in April. And here Chris says to him, "Last Friday I flew down to meet with him for a few hours. I think we're moving forward, but it's really slow." He also mentioned that he's bringing Danny Silk on board, and at this time he says that Danny Silk was to investigate the sexual misconduct allegations while he's going to investigate the false prophecy allegations. Now, I do want to point out that at this point many of Bethel's leadership were fully aware of everything going on, right? Stacey Campbell was aware, Patricia King was also aware, Shawn was also aware, and these are all of Bethel's leaders that were aware. Bill Johnson's image is not there. I've put it up here. At this point, you can see that these are the people that were made fully aware, and I've also added their names in there, so you can see that they were aware at this point in 2021. This is early 2021. So some more discussions between our mystery person and Chris Vallotton. And the reason why I'm not going to go through all of these is because you can see it on Mike Winger's video, and you can see it on a lot of the other videos, especially the one from Minor Prophets. But I did want to highlight a few points. On January 9th, 2021, according to Chris Vallotton, they fully cancelled Shawn Bolz on this date or around this time. He says, "I've told many leaders in our network about Shawn's dishonest prophetic ministry. Most of them have cancelled him." So it seems like at this point, Chris Vallotton is fully on board. When asked about Shawn Bolz's books that were in the bookstore, he also says that they removed books from the bookstore. They told the entire team they're not to minister with Shawn or have any form of contact with him during that time. They're fully distancing themselves. He also puts in some names so that we can see the names of a few people who have been made aware of Shawn Bolz's allegations. And so moving on from here, you would think that there's not going to be any contact between Bethel and Shawn Bolz. Nobody from Bethel is going to connect with him and is going to work with him at all, right? That's what you would expect. So January 14th, 2021, at this point, Shawn Bolz steps in and says that he apologizes for some false prophecy about Donald Trump winning the election. And he says that he's going to take a step back from ministry, and he's also going to hold himself accountable for the bad prophecy that he made. Moving on to February 1st, 2021, our mystery person reaches out to Chris to say, "I still see some of these books in your ministry. Is there a reason why that's still happening?" And Chris confirms that he just forgot to message somebody, or somebody didn't get the message, and he's going to follow up with that person. Now, another time in 2021, he's reached out to again, this is Chris Vallotton, by our mystery person, who says that he saw this image online and he's wondering why Bethel is giving an award called the Shawn Bolz Anointing Award, which doesn't make sense. But Chris tells him that this is false. This doesn't exist. It's just probably some prank or some kind of game that some of the students were playing or making jokes about. I don't know. But he then gets annoyed at our mystery person and says to him, "I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move on from this." And because of later reports, we can now know that Chris Vallotton actually blocked this person on social media, so there was no way for him to contact him again. Moving on to 2021, I was trying to figure out what was happening between 2021 and 2022 with Shawn Bolz because there wasn't much news. But in November, we can see, while I was doing my research, I saw this drop from God TV, and it was on November 24th, 2021, and it shows Patricia King working with Shawn Bolz, which is really disturbing because we've heard earlier on that Patricia King was made aware of the sexual harassment allegations. So I thought this was extremely strange, and what I did at this point was I went to look it up, and in the discussion, Shawn Bolz prophesied to somebody named Jill, and when I went to the comment section, I found that Jill actually commented on the video, giving us more details about when the actual recording happened. So this is when it was posted on November 21st, 2021. But she comments on when it was recorded. Now we're going to look at this a little bit later as well. She says that the original event took place in 2015, and then she says that this video was also used as a promo for Translating God, which means it came out before November in that year when Translating God was promoted. So in 2018 or 2017 maybe. She also think it was before April 2020. I do think that if it was used as a promo for Translating God, it must have been used either before the TV show came out, which was in January 2020, or it was before the book came out, which was in November 12th, 2015. On September 14th, 2021, this was when Elijah Stevens released the movie that Shawn Bolz told him to go and do. He got commissioning from God to go and produce this movie. Now, what I found was funny is, and if you have watched any videos of Elijah Stevens, he's got a great sense of humor. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. And on the website for the video, you can see that he says, in February 2015, Shawn Bolz looked Elijah Stevens up online to give him a prophetic word to make this film, which is funny because a lot of people have come to know that that's what he was doing with his prophecies. On Monday, August 22nd, Stacey Campbell followed up with Shawn Bolz about what she heard regarding the claims about Shawn's sexual harassment and about Shawn's false prophecies. That brings us to January 2023, and this is something that I want to take a moment to just talk about because I feel like this is quite disturbing. June 1st, 2023, this was aired on TBN, and it's a promotion for Shawn Bolz's book, Translating God, which was released much earlier. In this promotion, Bill Johnson, leader of Bethel, was seen not only promoting the book but also promoting Shawn. Take a listen.
But Bill, you wrote the foreword to this book. It's called Translating God. But you wrote that this was one of the most exciting books that you had read. Why was that?
Well, the book by itself is incredible. Knowing the life that backs it up adds a power to it because it's so practical. It's what you dream of. It's like if you could have a perfect relationship with the Lord and see its impact on humanity, that's what it would look like.
Now, let's take a look at Bill Johnson's apology because it's relevant to what we're talking about here.
Where people were traumatized over some of the sexual issues. Just horrible, sad stuff. And I spent time with one individual that I know, and we actually had a real, I felt a really honoring time going both ways. He was calling out for help. He was expressing the pain of his own journey and the trauma that he had faced being on that staff. And we had a really good time of connection, and I was so thankful for it. What followed, however, is I was invited to do an interview on TBN, which I agreed to do, and found out it was to promote Shawn in his book, and I went through with it. And so if you can imagine making a heartfelt connection with somebody and lending support for their healing, and then a week, a month, 3 months, whatever it was, I don't recall now, let's just say 2 months later, endorsing the very guy that he just brought a report to me on. And it was just a slap in the face to this young man. And it was just such a horrible misjudgment on my part, just absolutely foolish. I followed up. We spent more time together, a couple hours, and to be frank, he helped me in a kind way to see how foolish my decision was.
You can go and see the rest of that apology, but at this point, everybody's been forgiven for that. And I think of all of the events that happened here, this is the one that's the most verifiable. And I'll tell you exactly why. So the only thing that stood out on this entire timeline was the fact that Bill Johnson promoted him so late after everybody is supposed to not talk to Shawn Bolz. And you can see that he was actually cancelled over here. This is where he was cancelled. And that section there. And so I thought, there is no way that this happened in 2023. It can't be. It must have been earlier. There's no way that he actually went and promoted like Shawn Bolz at this time. It doesn't make any sense. Then I noticed something interesting while trying to figure out the timeline of this. I noticed that Bill Johnson's glasses is different in this video. Now, if you take a close look, you'll see that it's got a thin frame and there are no stripes. There's nothing on the side of the frame of his glasses. And I was taking a closer look at a couple of videos showing Bill Johnson's glasses over the years. In 2018, here you can see him and there's a stripe on the side of his glasses. There's 2018 and let's move forward. 2019, he's wearing the same glasses. 2020, he's wearing the same glasses. And it's got the stripe on the side. 2021, he's wearing the same glasses and he's worn these glasses for many years. But what I noticed is that on January 4th, 2023, that was the latest video I could see of him wearing glasses with a stripe on the left hand side, or on both the left and right hand side. But in October 2023, you can see Bill Johnson, he's wearing different glasses here, glasses with a thinner frame, and it doesn't have the thick stripe. So we do know that this promotion came between January 4th and October 9th in 2023, very late. And so it's the most verifiable maybe of all of these things. And I mean, for a lot of the stuff, we are trusting witness reports, but in this situation, you can see that Bill Johnson was definitely responsible for going and promoting between this time. For me, that was extremely disturbing, and I'm so glad that he met up with the guy afterwards to apologize for what happened here. Here you can see the date of the airing, and I got this from the channel Messed Up Church. That belongs to Stephen Kozar, and he's the one that noted the same thing about the glasses. Now, I will be completely honest with you. I went and I found out about the whole glasses situation myself. I'll be so honest, and I thought I was extremely smart for doing this, but then when I watched Stephen Kozar's video, I saw that he did the same research to try and piece together when this happened, and he also found that Bill Johnson's glasses proves that this is when he gave this promotion. Now, I don't know what would have happened if nobody had this evidence. I don't know if he would have said, nah, the filming must have been much earlier. I don't know, but I think of all, this is the most disturbing. Now, in 2023, there was a battle between Shawn Bolz and Stacey Campbell for some people to come and fellowship at their churches. These were wealthy people, and some say that the chances are they were trying to encourage him to come and worship at their churches because the tithe money that comes with wealthy people worshiping at your church is just great. And so Stacey Campbell thought that this is the opportune moment to share information with Bob and Sally, who are these wealthy people. She goes and she tells them that Shawn Bolz was accused of the sexual misconduct allegations, and then she also goes and says that Shawn Bolz at this point was also accused of false prophecy. And so I think though that Mike Winger kind of makes a mistake in his video. In his video, he shows that this happened September or October 2022, but pay special attention to exact words that she uses.
Okay, so she goes on. She reached out Monday, August 22nd.
Reached out on Monday, August 22nd. So this was over a year ago. I've known this, maybe two. And I said,
let's play that again and pay careful attention to her words. It really sounds like she says, so this was over a year ago. I've known this maybe too.
so this was over a year ago. I've known this, maybe two.
Now, I know that the word is I've done this maybe too, but I don't think that makes much sense. In the video, she says Monday, August 22nd. So this was over a year ago. I've known this maybe too. Now, Monday, August 22nd cannot be over a year ago if this was in September or October 2022. August would be the month before September. So obviously it can't have been then. So that puts this a year over that time, which means it was likely 2023. But she says I've known this maybe too. Not I've done this maybe too, and I think you can hear that also in the recording, which means Monday, August 22nd, and I took a look at this as well. It couldn't have been Monday, August 22nd in 2021 because August 22nd was on a Sunday, and it couldn't have been Monday 22nd in August 2023 because that fell on a Tuesday. So it must have been Monday, August 22nd, 2022. And if she says that that was over a year ago, her discussion with Chris Valentin about these things puts this around September, October 2023. So that's how I confirmed that this must have been been shared between 2023. Another part of Mike Winger's video says that they had this conference with Shawn Bolz in March or April 2023. Now, if this discussion happened in 2022, it would put Stacey Campbell in a meeting with Shawn Bolz on April 2023, which of course, if it was in April 2023, that would be terrible, right? But it wasn't as bad because clearly she was talking about all of this in 2023 and not 2022. However, I will mention that it's still just as bad because she knew about the allegations way before, and it sometimes makes me wonder why she still attended this event so much later. I really wonder why. I genuinely wonder why she attended this event. No idea. Can't say for sure. Moving on. In December 2023, Shawn Bolz releases a video on YouTube about how to deal with abusive leaders in ministry. This triggers a lot of people and starts sparking up discussions about his own misconduct in ministry. And so that's what sparks a lot of what's to come next. Now, in Patricia King's statement, she says that around 2023 and 2024, she contacts the victim. She wants to know if anybody else has come forward with claims about misconduct. And the victim says to her that, yeah, about 10 separate people came forward about that, and only some of them want to speak publicly about it. In late 2024, this is when Elijah Stevens discovered a lot of the falseness of the prophecies that Shawn Bolz was telling, and he found the information on Facebook down to the nicknames that were used. Let's take a look at the clip.
So Elijah and Allison got here?
I'm Elijah.
Did you just get here?
Yes, I was pulling out my driveway and I started getting texts.
And you're from the Peach State. Are you from Chattanooga by chance? Or?
Yes, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I lived there and I grew up in Georgia. Yeah.
So this is November 24th?
My birthday.
And, so God wants to really touch you in this year. I'm glad you're in third year because you're starting to come into the formulation of the greater destiny that's on your life. And I saw your birthday related to it. And I heard the Lord, when I was here at the Creative Conference, I heard the Lord speak to me in my left ear again. And he, the same way he spoke to Darren Wilson, he said, make the film. And I hear the Lord saying over you to make the film. So I don't know if August it means something to you.
Yeah, I'm making a documentary on miracles with medical evidence before and after.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're making a documentary on miracles and the before and after evidence. So this is a commissioning from heaven for you. It's a prototype.
Now, based on that word, he went and made this film, and it was a really difficult time for him. He suffered a lot, and this is because he trusted this prophet. There's no way somebody can come up to you, know your birthday, know all these personal details about you, and it not being some kind of divine information given to him. Obviously, unless that person went on Facebook and just looked up the information. On November 8th, 2024, Shawn Bolz prophesies that Trump is now having his second term. The prophecy was just, the timing was just bad, and he redeems himself here. And this is around the time that he's starting to try and take off again. But something happens that gets in the way. Around this time, Jubilee Dawn steps into the picture with her posts on social media about being prophesied to by Shawn Bolz that she was gifted to this man that she married. I'm gonna play that prophecy for you so that you can see what it sounded like. Here's the prophecy that was given to her.
A prophet said that God was giving me to my ex-husband who ended up almost killing me, and I went through with this wedding because of this prophetic word. And if you know my story, I've shared it a few times before, but I wanted to let you guys in on something that has been happening behind the scenes. I got confirmation that he is a con artist, and we knew he was a con artist, okay? Like, we've been knowing this. There has been a lot of speculation around this prophet for years that he gets all of his words off of Facebook and social media. And throughout the times that I've shared my story, I have said that the information that he had was directly available on my Facebook. And let me show you a clip of what he said, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it.
Phone last night. I saw 50, but I know that 50 is Jubilee year, and there's something about God's giving you a Jubilee. What does that mean to you?
I'm with someone named Jubilee.
Oh, your girlfriend's name is Jubilee? That's awesome. Well, God's giving you this girl.
Wow.
And when we ordered the food this morning, by the way, this is a huge advertisement in the midst of prophesying. and it's a prophetic advertisement. That tomato pie cafe place is like level 10 awesome, and we've been eating there for the mornings, and it's like they've been bringing us food kindly enough, and they're amazing. But does she have something to do with the tomato pie cafe? Does she? She works there, okay.
So that's the clip. That is the clip that got me to get married, because I was dating this guy and there were a lot of red flags that were popping up, but this prophetic word was given that God was giving my ex Jubilee, which is me. So
Wow.
I am going to miss this app because you guys have helped me so much in my own personal healing. I've had a lot of religious trauma due to this. I mean, obviously, I stayed in this abusive marriage for years because I thought that this was God's will for my life. I thought that I needed to be with this man.
Yeah.
One is just to thank my TikTok community. Had I not had this app, I would not have gotten that confirmation, which is so much closure to me because it's hard to describe. But guys, when my ex had literally strangled me the first time, I didn't leave because of this word. And that is why I speak about religious trauma.
That's a bit that I wanted to show you, and I think that that's just the saddest thing to hear, because if you think about it, she only stayed in that relationship because she was told that this was a word from God, right? That she was gifted to him from God. That was the one thing keeping her in the relationship, even though he literally strangled her. That was crazy. And that's why I have no shame in doing this kind of thing. And I think a lot of us have no shame, and we absolutely should. Now, around this time, Patricia King says that she reached out to the victim, our mystery person earlier, and she also said to him she apologizes for her shortcomings, that she didn't do much more. On December 15, that's when that video was posted that we just watched. Later, another major significant event happened on January 10th in 2025, and that's when the YouTube channel Minor Prophets posted all of this information, and that's where we got that clip. During this time, shortly after the post from Minor Prophets, Jubilee Dawn goes and posts on the alumni of the Bethel Supernatural School of Ministry, and she gets a lot of hate from the people on there. She says that she did this between the week of January 12th and January 18th in that same year. This was last year, January 12th, 2025, and during that week, a lot of things were happening that were concerning Shawn Bolz. Now, Shawn Bolz in that week released a statement concerning prophetic integrity. He did that on the 17th. That's still in the same week, and the statement is still available if you go to the link that I've shared in the description or in the comment. He says going forward, they're going to promise, among other things, they're not going to share information that's obvious as a word of knowledge, meaning it can something that can be found online. They will not share prophetic words publicly that are for judgment or correction, and they are not going to prophesy conditional words. Unless you do this, this will happen. They're not going to prophesy like that. Now, on January 18th, we can see that questions were popping up about Shawn Bolz from people at Bethel School, because this was posted on the Facebook group of the alumni stuff. And so yeah, you can see Spencer Dalton is one person that discusses this with Chris Valentin. But what I think is most surprising about this on January 18th, 2025 is that Chris Valentin says to him in response to their claims, "Are you 100% sure he is guilty? So far as I know, it's alleged." And I think that's really weird, because remember, Shawn Bolz was cancelled many years ago. On January 9th, 2021, he was cancelled, as per Chris Valentin himself. So why would you cancel somebody just on alleged stuff? Wouldn't you need to get the evidence? Wouldn't you be convinced that he is guilty of some of the things before cancelling him? That's what doesn't make sense to me there. Moving on to January 19th, 2025, I found a article from the organization Medium, and they posted this: Prophet Shawn Bolz publicly outed. Now, when I read through this article, I noticed that there were no mention of the sexual harassment claims. At this point, I think that the emphasis was on Shawn Bolz's false prophecy, and not a lot of people were talking about the sexual harassment claims. But shortly after that, a significant event happened where Chris Valentin, the leadership of Bethel, on February 3rd, 2025, released a statement. They said around the same period, allegations surfaced from one of Shawn's employees regarding inappropriate behavior and a hostile work environment. Bethel leaders confronted him multiple times and firmly admonished and warned him. They believed the reported behavior resembled sexual harassment and had potentially legal implications. Since Shawn was not under their authority, they advised affected individuals to seek civil remedies and inform the board of the concerns. Shawn indicated that the problematic behavior had stopped, which is an interesting claim, but because of the unresolved concerns about both the words of knowledge and the workplace allegations, Bethel decided to step back from ministry partnership, and that included not having a minister on their platform or sell materials in their stores, informing other leaders of their concerns and sharing evidence, interesting, admonishing him and communicating that global leaders are watching, and establishing boundaries that they say led to some changes in his practice. They did not publicly rebuke him because they were not fully certain of what had happened regarding the prophetic concerns and believed that he had made behavioral changes. However, they state their trust in Shawn is still unrepaired. This is a public statement that Bethel made in 2025, about 4 years later than the time he was cancelled. 4 years. Now, if you can think about it, he was still going around prophesying to people. On February 5th, 2025, you can see that there is a post by Liz Likens, and this is a news article, but in this one, she mentions not only the false prophecies, but also the sexual harassment claims that were made, and this is based on Bethel's statement. Now, in April 2025, Patricia King withdraws her endorsement of Shawn Bolz, and this can be seen on Twitter if you have access to her tweets. I do not have access to her tweets at this time because she has protected them. On June 26th, the Elijah Stevens story shared on Mike Winger's channel. Mike Winger is a big Christian YouTuber at the time. On the same day, we see from the channel run by Stephen Kozar that he does a deep dive on the fake prophecies by Shawn Bolz. Moving on, in January of 2026, this year, Mike Winger makes a post saying that few names are going to come up in his next video, and these names are many of the people that we mentioned in this video, and he is going to reveal how they've been protecting people that should not be in the ministry. This was a significant event because this video gained 1.2 million views, and it's been in the public eye for the last 2 weeks or so. On January 18th, the very next day, in response to Mike Winger's video, Chris Vallotton comments in the church service and says that Mike is putting out these stories and earning thousands of dollars from telling a story. Mike Winger, the next day or 2 days later, on January 20th, 2026, posts the evidence that he expected this would happen, and he actually removed the monetization of the video on his channel. On January 20th as well, Patricia King gives a statement in response to Mike Winger's video, which had gained a lot of views at that time. In the video, she claims she never had a personal relationship with Shawn, only professional. Mike Winger responds to that, showing the video of hers in 2016 that we were talking about, where she claimed that he's a dear friend for a long time. Patricia King in January also blocked her account or made it private so that you can't really see any of her posts. Jubilee Dawn on January 21st posted again in response to the Mike Winger video, and she shares the timeline of events that I used as well to update this timeline. On January 23rd, Mike Winger responded in a video to Bethel's Chris Vallotton, and Mike Winger says here that he is not going to take Chris Vallotton's words that he's making money from all of this stuff seriously, and he's going to allow Bethel to come up with a good response. That's on January 23rd, 2026. A significant event happened on January 25th in 2026, and on this day, Bethel released their apology, their full and proper apology, after having thought about everything that has happened. And in that, they made a few claims, and that's also where Bill Johnson said that he met with the person who reached out to him and spent some time with him about his endorsement for Shawn Bolz, and he apologized about it there. On the same day, Jeremy Boutros released a statement about what he knows about Shawn Bolz, and he confirmed all of the sexual misconduct and the power dynamics that had happened. Shawn Bolz would have him share secrets about his life with him so that he could hold it against him. This is really disturbing. Boutros also mentions that he wrote about 70 or 80% of Shawn Bolz's work. So he was the ghostwriter for Shawn Bolz, and that's how you know who he was. He was really significant for Shawn Bolz during his ministry. So you might be thinking at this point, what happened to Shawn Bolz, right? What's going on with him? On January 26th, the very next day, Shawn Bolz YouTube cancels their membership features. That's where you can pay for subscription to Shawn Bolz to see some more content. Mike Winger posts about this on X, that at this point you can't be a member on Shawn Bolz's channel. Shawn Bolz's ministry also, between January 26th and 27th, posts that they are on a sabbatical and you can't see anything else on their site at this time. On January 28th, after everything, Shawn gives a response and says that around 2020 he was made aware of the serious allegations of sexual misconduct. He asked Shawn to submit to his pastor at the time, which he claims was Bill Johnson, and he says that during this time he immediately removed Shawn as a member of Harvest International Ministry, and he removed him from future events. And he said that despite Shawn calling Bill Johnson his pastor, it appeared that he did not want to submit. On January 30th, 2026, Mike Winger posts his response to Bethel's apology, and he says that the ministry Expression 58 also shared that, to be clear, not one victim or former employee of either Expression 58 or Bolz ministry, which is Shawn's ministry with his wife, has ever come to us with any personal claim about sexual misconduct in regards to Shawn. This is the point where Mike Winger says that that's completely untrue and that there were some claims, but the pastor just brushed it off. Now, in closing, I want to make a few comments here. A pastor's role biblically is protective in nature. When you read about it in scripture, you can see that in Titus 1, for example, it says that elders are to hold firmly to the trustworthy word, so they can both encourage with sound doctrine and rebuke those who contradict. In 1 Peter 5, they're told to shepherd the flock, exercising oversight. In Hebrews 13:17, it says that they are to watch over our souls and those who will give account. That's protective language. Pastors are called to guard the flock from false doctrine, from destructive influence, and from harm. And when someone brings serious damage to the church, shepherding sometimes means removing them from influence, warning others. And that's not gossip, that's actually obedience. What struck me through all of this is how often it gets flipped. In some circles, there's this don't touch God's anointed mentality where the sheep feel like they have to protect the pastor, right? But biblically, it's the shepherd that protects the sheep. And that, of course, means that they need to live upstanding lives. They need to behave in a certain way. I've heard of pastors who had to tell somebody at church that they could no longer attend the church, right? And that sounds harsh. But when you see the damage that happens when leaders fail to act, you start to appreciate the pastors that make those hard calls. Once again, thanks so much for watching this video. This one was more to cover the timeline, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to help support this new Christian channel. Thank you.